All right, what is up, everyone? I hope you're all having a great day today. I know I haven't made a video in a while. That's kind of just because I've had nothing to play. I've been playing FC 26 a lot with my buddies, and there's really not much to talk about when it comes to sports games. So I wasn't really going to make a video on that. But thankfully, I have started playing a game that I am absolutely falling in love with, and that is, as you can see from the title, Outer Worlds 2. Now, this game is flawed. Don't get me wrong. There's issues, there's things I would change if I could. But overall, I'm just having a great time with it, man. And when I compare it to Obsidian's last release, Avowed, I'm not really going to count Grounded too. That's like a separate category. But Avowed, man, what a total pile of dookie. Just a terrible game. And I made a review about Avowed when it came out, and originally I thought it wasn't too bad, but I really just didn't play it as much as I should have because as I kept playing it and playing it, I kind of realized I was just coping. I wanted the game to be good really bad. But man, it is a terrible game. There's really not much upside with Avowed. Whereas when I play Outer Worlds 2, I can see the difference almost immediately to the point where it feels like Obsidian didn't even really give a fuck about Avowed. It seems like all their attention was in Outer Worlds 2, and you can see that in the game and in the story and in the RPG mechanics and everything else that comes with Outer Worlds, and I'm going to talk about it today in this video. So I'm about 20 hours into my first Outer Worlds 2 playthrough, and although I haven't completed the main story, I think I've experienced enough of what the game has to offer to be able to give my thoughts and opinions to you guys, and I just couldn't really wait to talk about it. So that's why I'm making this video, maybe slightly prematurely, but I think at the end of the day, I'm having so much fun. I think I could talk about it. And I wanted to start with the things that I dislike about Outer Worlds 2. There's not many, but I do think my dislikes are important and honestly are what's stopping the game from being a great game to an excellent game to a game of the year contender. Because I don't think it's a game of the year contender, although I'm having a ton of fun with it. It's probably one of my favorite games of the year. I just don't think it'll get that type of attention from, the world and everyone else in the gaming society, whatever it is. But that being said, let's get into it. So hands down, my biggest complaint with Outer Worlds 2 has to be the combat. And I don't mean the general combat gameplay, like your movement and shooting. I think that stuff's all fine. It's more to do with the visual storytelling that combat is supposed to provide. I really am a fan of games that do stuff like dismemberment, gore. I love seeing bullet holes. I love seeing arms fly off and heads fucking exploding. I know that sounds a little bit fucked up, but I just love games like that. And I know a lot of people do as well. If you go back to the OG Fallouts like Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, the dismemberment and gore is just incredible. Or even, games like Call of Duty World at War where arms would fly off if you got shot with like an LMG or stuff like that where you just see the actual damage that you're causing. I think physics is a huge thing in games. Games like Red Dead Redemption 2, for example. Like you shoot someone, you see the bullet hole. You shoot someone in the head, their head fucking explodes. Stuff like that is really important in my opinion when it comes to enhancing the overall gameplay and how you feel in combat. And with Outer Worlds, it's really just not there at all. There's no dismemberment, there's no bullet holes. When you shoot enemies, they kind of just do like a little stumble or a stutter. You're not really seeing the damage you're causing. Yeah, when they die, they might have like a ragdoll physics here and there, but for the most part, they kind of just go into an auto animation where they fall down. And I just find that really goofy, and it kind of just takes away from the feeling, the power fantasy that you want to get in games like these types of RPGs, like the Fallout style RPGs that Obsidian love to work on and love to make, and they do everything else so well. So I just don't know what the reasoning is for that. I think it's a huge mistake, and I think that would have elevated the gameplay in Outer Worlds 2 to honestly just a whole new level. And I think they just really missed the mark with the combat. Although it's still fun, I'm not going to say I'm not enjoying that. I enjoy the combat, I enjoy the movement, I enjoy all the guns, I enjoy the weapons, your abilities. I think everything is really well done. But that physics aspect and gore aspect is just missing. This is the same thing, the same issue I had when Starfield came out, which is another game I really, really like. But the lack of gore was just honestly shocking to me, especially from a company like Bethesda. And I feel like Bethesda and Obsidian are kind of one and the same when it comes to these games. So that is my first major complaint. Now, another issue I have, which is somewhat related to, combat, is the stealth in this game. I honestly think, at least early game and where I'm at, if you're not putting a lot of points into the stealth, and I get it's an RPG, if you want to do something better, you put more points into it. But at the beginning, stealth is almost non-usable. Like straight up, it's poor. The AI has like extreme vision cones for the most part. A lot of the level design is set up so there's really no way for you to sneak by sometimes. Sometimes there is, sometimes there's vents, sometimes there's things you can climb up on and get around. But when it comes to like stealth takedowns and stuff, I noticed very early on that the enemies were just too strong for me to do it like an instant takedown. So it was almost like, what am I doing here? Like I feel like it just wasn't catered properly to stealth. Maybe if I put a lot of points into sneak and some of the other stealth things, it would be a lot easier. I'm sure it is, and I'm sure I'm gonna get shit on for saying that. But that's just how I personally felt when engaging with the stealth combat. I didn't feel like it was really worth it in my opinion. It was probably just better off just going guns blazing, which is what I usually end up doing in Outer Worlds 2. Now, another thing I kind of dislike about Outer Worlds 2, and I know this might be blasphemous because it is, an RPG, right? But is just the extensive amount of dialogue and dialogue choices. Any NPC that's able to be interacted with, some of them just have some of the longest dialogue sequences to the point where you're there for sometimes minutes on end. And I'm like, dude, can I just end the conversation? But then more dialogue options appear. And the problem with this game is it's so well done in terms of its RPG mechanics and having different options to do things in quests that if you don't exhaust every option, you might miss something that would give you a hint to the next quest or the next person you talk to. It might unlock another dialogue option with them. So, in my opinion, the dialogue is kind of like a gift and a curse. There's highs and lows. Like, I love the rewarding feeling you get when you have other dialogue options and there's other checks in different sections of the game where if you talk to this person and said this thing, you'll have an advantage. It's somewhere else. But also at the same time, I really just kind of get annoyed and tired of talking to the same NPC for so long, and I just kind of want to get it over with that I end up just like mashing the space bar just to get rid of the conversation entirely because I just don't want to listen to it and I don't want to read every option. It just kind of gets tiresome. And I think that's kind of just a flaw in game design. I think they probably could have made it a little more, dialed in if they really wanted to. But at the end of the day, that's not like a major, major issue to me. It's kind of just a little bit more of a nitpick, in my opinion. But yeah, that is also something that, kind of bothered me about Outer Worlds 2. Now, my last and final issue with Outer Worlds 2, and I'm kind of just realizing I have a little bit more issues with this game than I had originally anticipated. And I guess I'm just having so much fun that I didn't realize how much things about Outer Worlds 2 are not great. But whatever, that's kind of besides the point. My last and final issue with Outer Worlds 2 is probably its graphics and its performance. Now, this is not a major issue to me. It doesn't really ruin the gameplay experience for me much at all. But I do have an issue with, the fact that the games industry is kind of going back rather than forward. I feel like graphics are getting worse in a lot of games. With Obsidian games, they kind of always have this cartoonier look. But I wish they just got a little bit better, a little bit more on the realistic side. Now, it doesn't have to go full realism like Fallout, but I would like a little bit more because I feel like I'm playing a game kind of that's like from like 2014 or something. So yeah, that's an issue. And the performance, as soon as I stepped foot onto Paradise Island, the first area, I noticed immediately I was getting, stutters, lag spikes. My frame rate was dropping constantly. My PC usually can handle up to like 120, 1 to 150 FPS in most games, even games that are graphically intensive. So the fact that I was getting like 40 frames per second a lot of the time during playing this game is a big issue, honestly. It's an issue for a lot of people. It doesn't ruin the experience, but it is an issue. Now, hands down, my favorite thing about Outer Worlds 2 is just the sheer amount of options you have and freedom you have when, deciding on how to approach quests, side quests, anything that you do in the game. So, like I said before with the dialogues, certain dialogue options might open up different dialogue options for a different NPC in a different quest. If you pick up a certain object in a random area, that object might have information or might be beneficial during another quest or talking to a different NPC that will give you a different option in that quest. It's very, very detailed, and I can't even believe the level of detail, honestly. I did not expect this, especially after Avowed. My favorite example of this is I was doing a side quest where I have to kill like a couple raptidons or whatever. And I ended up finding an entrance to the Vox relay station, which is a big point of interest in the main quest. And I wouldn't have known that was there. I just did a side quest that was completely unrelated to the main quest, and I ended up finding that location in one of the areas. And I just thought that was like excellent because there's like 4 or 5 different ways you can get into the Vox relay, and that was just one of them. And I ended up taking a different option entirely. But the fact that I could just find those two options just by exploring and stumbling and doing side quests is just a testament to the attention to detail that Obsidian put in this game, and I just can't believe how good it has been, especially when compared to a game like Avowed. I just can't believe this company made these two games within the same year. It's just like night and day. I genuinely can't fucking believe that. Now, another huge W, I think, is the quest design. I think there's a lot of variety in quests, and most of them are interesting. Now, don't get me wrong, there is some, fetch quests and stuff like that. But for the most part, because the game scale is smaller than that of like a huge RPG, like a Bethesda game or something like that, those types of quests are really limited, and you're kind of stuck with just very interesting quests. They have more ability to put interesting things and more compelling narratives in their quests and side quests, and it's very, very noticeable when you're playing this game. Every quest feels like it's something new. I don't feel like I'm being, hoodwinked and just go follow this guy, go fetch this, go do this. I'm actually enjoying the quests. Like, I actually want to get to the bottom of these, issues that the NPCs are having. And I think what really helps this is the fact that NPCs feel a lot more alive, and the world itself feels more alive in Outer Worlds 2 when I compare it to something like Avowed, which I'm going to keep comparing to because they're obviously made by the same company. But as you guys saw, if you played Avowed, like, the NPCs were not reactive. They almost all just stood still in the city. No one moved. You didn't really feel connections to anything or anyone in the world. Outer Worlds, complete opposite. Most of the NPCs move around. There is some guys standing around and stuff like that, but for the most part, they all have their own houses. They all have their own terminals where you could find information on them. It just feels alive, and that really lends itself to the quality of side quests and main quests because, these people in these quests don't just feel like, a fucking write-off, right? It actually feels like it's going to affect these people in the game, and I love that. Now I kind of want to talk about skills and perks. Every RPG has them, and some do it a lot better than others. But I do think Outer Worlds 2 does a pretty good job with its skills and perks. I think there's a lot of variety. It is good for build crafting. You actually have to make conscious choices of what skills and perks you choose because they have major effects on certain outcomes of quests. I think it's brilliant how they did it. I think not a lot of games do it this well. Games like Kingdom Come might do it just as well, maybe better. But Outer Worlds is fantastic in this aspect. You really have to decide what you want to do. Do you want to be a hacker? Do you want to be an engineer? Do you want to be a sneak artist? Do you want to be a gun blazer? All these things have effects on quests, and they're very important. Like, if you don't level up a certain skill, you will be fucked in certain parts of the game. And you can't do anything about it because the game doesn't let you respec. So whatever your decision is, you stuck with that. Unless you obviously had saves or you preloaded, made sure you did a save before you gained your level. Stuff like that can probably help you, but sometimes you don't know it until it's too late, and then you just can't go back, and you're kind of fucked. And whatever the outcome is of that quest, you're going to have to live with it. Stuff like that is awesome in RPGs, and not a lot of them have it nowadays. Kingdom Come is in a class of its own, so I obviously that had it, but nothing else that I've seen does it quite as well as Outer Worlds 2. So I just want to give them kudos for that. I think they've done a great job with the skill and perks. Now, one thing I haven't really talked about yet is the story in Outer Worlds 2, and that's because I haven't finished it. So because I haven't finished it, I don't know how it turns out. I don't know if it's really good or really bad at the end of all this. But what I can say is that at the point I'm at right now in the game, it's been good. I've been interested. I've been wanting to know where it goes and where it leads, and I've wanted to do quests relating to the main story. And so that's just the biggest sign of respect I can give it, and we'll see if I end up liking it more or less after I'm done. But so far, I have no complaints. I think it's a well done story, a lot better than Avowed, like miles better. It's not Red Dead Redemption 2. It's not, God of War, but it's there. It does its job, and I think it's pretty well done. So now I kind of just want to rattle off some things I either liked or disliked about the game. So I'm just going to start with the customization. The customization is fine. It's pretty good. Nothing spectacular, nothing to rock your socks or anything like that. The armor can look good if you get the right pieces. You can make your guy look how you want. I love how there's a third person mode that you can see how your guy looks, and you could actually play the game in third person completely. I think that's a great addition. I think the speech checks are good. They're satisfying. They're a lot more rewarding than in other games. The UI, it's all right. There's nothing bad or good about it. It does its job. You know what I mean? A thing I didn't really like is that the pickpocketing is extremely easy. If you have the pickpocket perk, you pretty much can just go behind anyone and pickpocket whatever is in their inventory, and there's almost no consequences whatsoever. I find it a little weird. It's not game breaking, but they could have added some more consequences when it comes to pickpocketing, like a percentage chance of getting caught or something like that, depending on your skill, which I haven't found to be the case so far. So there is that. Sometimes the dialogue options can be pretty black and white. There's not a lot of nuance I noticed in some, conversations that you're having with NPCs. Like you're either going to go with the completely bad side or the completely good side. Not always, but I find that that happens quite a bit, and I don't love that. But it's not a really big issue for me anyway. You can't swim. It's not really a You don't swim much in the game. There's not a lot of water anyway, but if you get into a certain depth of water, you just die. There's another thing actually, which is the flaw system, and I've noticed that most of the flaws you get, if you accept them or not, don't have a lot of upside. I feel like the downsides are usually worse than the upsides. For example, I took the kleptomaniac flaw by accident. I didn't realize what I was doing, and now anytime I walk by an item that can be stolen, my guy auto steals it, and everyone just tries to fucking kill me. And I think it was a little goofy, and I can't go back and change that because they're permanent. So before I noticed, it was already too late. So that's something I wish I could change. I feel like there should be a way to respec or some other way. Maybe there is that I just don't know about, but so far I'm stuck with that flaw, and it's kind of fucking me over a lot, but it is what it is, man. And that's about it for my review on the Outer Worlds 2. I think overall it's a great game. I would personally give it like an 8 out of 10. I would definitely buy it if I didn't have Game Pass, now that I know how it plays and how it feels. So if you haven't played it, I recommend playing it. Pick that game up. If you have Game Pass, pick it up, because it's a great experience and you definitely won't regret it if you're into this type of game. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching this video. Hopefully I make another video sooner rather than later, and I don't have a big layoff like I did this last time. Peace.